Better ingredients, better pizza.
But is it? According to people who work at Papa John's, not everything the chain offers really is better, and that even includes some of the chain's signature offerings. Theoretically, Papa Bowls are a smart addition to the otherwise carb-heavy Papa John's menu. The bowls first started popping up a few years ago and offer a way to enjoy all your favorite tasty pizza toppings in a plastic bowl without the bread base.
No crust, just a whole bunch of those Papa John's toppings you love.
Put into practice, however, these bowls rarely come out tasting or looking good. One person claiming to be a Papa John's employee went so far as to question why the Papa Bowl is still on the menu, considering how many people complain after receiving their orders. They wrote on Reddit, "It's actually disgusting. It comes out looking gross every single time. Everyone who has one hates it, and we sell maybe 5 a month." Some have argued that the bowls are popular with gluten-free and diabetic customers, but the consensus is that they're simply not worth ordering, with another purported employee on the Reddit thread adding that the Papa Bowl portion specifications mean you won't end up with much food for your money. Papa John's axed its beloved chicken poppers in 2023 and replaced them with the far inferior boneless wings. It was a move that sparked controversy among die-hard Papa John's customers, and doesn't seem to have gone down too well with those behind the scenes either. Someone who said they're an employee condemned the switch on Reddit, explaining that the boneless wings in their uncooked state have an unnatural scent that never plagued the chicken poppers. They wrote, "The staff at my store referred to the new poppers as cat food because of how it smells before going in the oven." Others added that the texture of the meat isn't easy to work with either. Another wrote, "They feel like sand when we take them out, and God's help us, the smell is not pleasurable." I don't know who in corporate thinks they can get away with these crazy swaps, but people are gonna notice the drop in quality. One of the ways that Papa John's differentiates itself from its competitors is by slipping a pepperoncini, a mild chili pepper, into each pizza box. Customers tend to love or hate these bonus peppers, with some even requesting extras. Having seen how they're prepared, however, many Papa John's workers would recommend against that. In a Reddit thread on how the peppers are handled behind the scenes, several self-proclaimed current and former employees revealed that the peppers are usually thrown into the box barehanded, and the hands in question are rarely, if ever, washed immediately beforehand. Another added that while they use tongs, the rest of their coworkers do not. In short, odds are your hands aren't the first to pick up that pepperoncini. Employees have complained about the smell that emanates from the chicken toppings used on pizzas such as the barbecue chicken bacon pizza and the fiery buffalo chicken pizza.
Featuring all white chicken with creamy ranch and drizzled with spicy buffalo sauce.
One wrote on Reddit, "I won't eat the chicken topping, as opposed to the wings and nuggets either, because fresh out of the bag, it has a chemical odor. I'm guessing it's something they add to give it a wood-smoked flavor." Other Papa John's workers have made the same complaints, with several noting that the smell tends to linger once you remove it from the packaging. One compares it to the smell of cannabis, of all things. They thought their coworker had smoked marijuana before their shift, and then realized they were prepping chicken. An enticing odor in some scenarios, but maybe not during food prep. Workers claim that the conditions in which Papa John's salami is prepared and stored have put them off it. According to one purported employee on Reddit, the salami allegedly sits there for weeks before making its way onto a pizza. Another former employee shared images in a separate post showing salami, as well as Canadian bacon, stored past their use-by date in plastic tubs. All of Papa John's meat is delivered pre-cooked, but it still needs to be used, eaten, or thrown away by a certain date. As another employee explained, meats typically come in extremely large quantities when delivered, which explains why so much is left over. Regardless, that shouldn't mean it ever ends up on a pizza. Some Papa John's fans swear by the chain's signature garlic sauce, but some employees don't share those feelings, particularly of late. Many claim that the recipe changed at some point between late 2023 and early 2024, giving it a saltier flavor. And even before the supposed flavor change, some workers at the chain were getting sick of the stuff due to the fact they handled or ate it every day. One person claiming to be an employee wrote on Reddit, "That garlic sauce is now thoroughly disgusting to me, I hate to admit." Others have a much more practical reason for going garlic-free, the lingering smell. Another wrote, "Avoid getting it on anything because that stuff will smell forever." Pizza lovers who had to give up one of their faves because of gluten sensitivities were probably delighted to hear Papa John's would add a gluten-free crust made of sorghum, teff, amaranth, and quinoa to its menu in 2017. Employees are sad to report, though, that those with severe gluten intolerances or celiac disease still can't eat it because it still comes into contact with gluten.
Carbs aside, it's absolutely teeming with gluten.
One person claiming to be a former employee wrote on Quora, "Yes, they have separate screens and cutters, but they use a shared oven, and the proprietary flour blend they use at the store gets everywhere. Also, in a rush, like during the dinner rush, employees will grab the wrong screen or cutter by accident. It's not deliberate, but those levels of cross-contamination could lead to days of pain for the wrong person." Papa John's itself has even recommended that those with serious gluten issues not order the gluten-free pizza, a spokesperson told CNBC. It is possible that a pizza with Papa John's Ancient Grains gluten-free crust is exposed to gluten during the ordinary preparation process. Mushrooms are a familiar fixture on takeout pizza, but they're not always super fresh when Papa John's sprinkles them across your pie. Someone who claimed to be an employee on Reddit went so far as to call the mushrooms out specifically when asked what to keep an eye out for. They wrote, "The mushrooms we get are pretty touchy and aren't always accurate to the expiration date. Sometimes they're very clearly no longer usable, but because they're still technically okay, they get put on pizzas anyway. The quality of the mushrooms is less noticeable once they're cooked, but that itself is still pretty concerning, given that it means you can't know if they're good or not." Even more off-putting is the reported fact that the mushrooms also have a seriously strong odor before going in the oven. On top of that, plenty of Papa John's restaurants are, in the words of one purported employee, said to keep using all of the mushrooms until they run out, regardless of how squishy they are or the use-by date. Papa John's employees don't seem to mind the standard pepperoni, but the crispy Cuppy Roni, launched in March 2024, has made an army of enemies out of workers. One purported employee perfectly summed up the overall sentiment on Reddit. "I hope the person that came up with this bangs their bare pinky toe on every chair leg, table leg, and corner they walk past for the rest of their life." These smaller, chunkier, greasier pieces of pep simply gross out a lot of Papa John's workers. They've been compared to acne craters, and oddly but accurately, videos where lotus flowers are photoshopped onto human skin. The smell is also apparently pretty bad. One worker even claimed that the kitchen smells comparable to a high school locker room for hours on end whenever they're baked onto a pie, while another argued that they're more like Beg and Strip's dog treats. Hot lemon pepper sauce was added as an option for Papa John's wings orders in early 2023.
Lemon pepper what?
Don't get too excited. There are employees who denounce its very existence and would strongly advise against ordering it. During the week of its launch, one Papa John's worker took to Reddit to declare that their store's entire team declared it to be, quote, "a unanimous ew." They said the fault of the hot lemon pepper wings isn't the lemon pepper itself, but more the fact that it tasted like a strange mix of spices and had a weirdly gritty texture. They wrote, "I started calling it the Papa Prank Sauce because there's no way anyone seriously let that go nationwide. If it were actually lemon pepper, we'd love it. However, it's way too red tasting to be lemon pepper. Way too much red pepper and cayenne." The sight of the sauce alone was enough to ward off some employees, with one responding to the original post by confessing, "I'm surprised you guys wanted to try it. We're horrified at my store. It looks like puke." If you're looking to change things up and top your pie with Alfredo sauce rather than the typical tomato, employees simply say, don't. Papa John's workers have described the chain's Alfredo as one of the most mishandled ingredients in the entire kitchen. As one person claiming to be an employee explained on Reddit, it typically comes into the store frozen and is sometimes heated up to thaw it out as soon as possible, though it needs to go in a cooler if the sauce creeps above a certain temperature to avoid developing bacteria. This is allegedly rarely the case. They wrote, "Lots of times it is placed on the make line, not under the make line in the refrigeration unit like it should be." There are also practical challenges faced by those trying to use it on a pizza. Unlike red sauce, Alfredo tends not to be overly cooperative with the crust. Another person who said they're an employee wrote in the same thread, "Our Alfredo sauce doesn't soak into the dough at all, so it ends up almost soupy. Combined with the sheer amount of cheese added to Papa John's standard Alfredo pizza, you get a pie that's extremely challenging to bake and will often deliver disappointing results."